Now, most everybody knows that Seven Samurai, the classic film from 1954, was remade into The Magnificent Seven in 1960. It was such a universal story concept that a shift from feudal Japan to the Old West was an easy transition. But it isn't the only other place we can take this story. In this video, I want to look at all of the Chinese variations of Seven Samurai. There might be more than you think. Now, if you need a refresher on the original Seven Samurai, you can just go back and watch Chapter 1. Chapter 2 is all of the Western versions, starting with the Magnificent Seven. So, if you're ready, let's get into it. And the perfect movie to start with is Kill a Dragon from 1967. Despite its name sounding like a Bruce Lee clone movie, Kill a Dragon is a bit deceptive. It stars Jack Palance and Aldo Ray and is directed and written and produced all by white people. This is a Hollywood production that filmed on location in China, so this is the perfect movie to transition from the Westerns into the Easterns. The plot is still focused on Jack Palance and friends helping out local villagers against a gangster, but this film is unique on the list as it is China in the 1960s being shown through the eyes of foreigners. This is a cute segue film, but it isn't that close to our Seven Samurai plot. The relationship between Palance and Lorenzo Lamas, the villain, and how the movie resolves the nature of the delicate explosives being transported all make it pretty different. Plus, it's not truly a Chinese interpretation of the story. For that, we need to look at Duel of the Seven Tigers. But just in case anyone wants to get snippy with me and suggest that I skipped over the Magnificent Trio from 1966, I would say that it's actually closer to a remake of Three Outlaw Samurai from 1964. But it is a team of three defending a farming village from ruthless businessmen. Trio is a Chang Che film starring Jimmy Wang Yu and Lo Lei. So, mentioned. Let's jump to 1979. Duel of the Seven Tigers from 1979, aka Shadow of the Tiger. This old-school kung fu movie opens with a credit sequence showcasing all seven of our leading actors as they display their kung fu prowess with actual on-screen resumes of their real-life qualifications, and I gotta say, there's some bangers in here. The action choreographer for Bruce Lee's Big Boss and Fists of Fury? But beyond that, the movie is pretty flimsy in the Seven Samurai comparisons. On IMDb, under Connections, it says, the film is about seven martial arts masters who are enlisted to eliminate a Japanese karate expert who is threatening the Chinese martial arts community. But under Trivia, it also says there are actually 8 tigers. Regardless of how many tigers there are, the movie follows the general structure of spending the first hour collecting their team members and then fighting it out in the last half hour. Part of the kung fu nature of the movie is how the seven masters each represent a different fighting style, which we get to see demonstrated and utilized for the plot in order to win, so lots of training sequences. As a kung fu movie for hardcore kung fu fans, this is a bunch of fun. Average movie watchers won't think much of it, and the ties to Seven Samurai are pretty loose and vaguely generalized. Seven Warriors, 1989. This takes place during the warlord era of China in the 20s, after the Qing dynasty had ended and power had yet to solidify. So farmers were victim to raiding parties, and they offer food to our ragtag band of mercenaries to protect them. I think this is the best of these Chinese movies, the most direct and truest in spirit to Seven Samurai, though to be fair, it might also be as influenced by the Magnificent Seven. In either case, we definitely get the most of the classic roster with character types from both. So we got the general is our leader, one of them is a drifter, his old friend is a blacksmith, there's the knife man, the kid is the son of an old ally, and Ghost is the cowardly treasure seeker, which is an addition in the Magnificent Seven. Then there's the nerdy idealist as the peasant pretending to be an intellectual, so similar to the Kikuchiyo character in Seven Samurai. In this movie, the team is put together in the first 20 minutes because the runtime is only 94 minutes in total. There's also a romance in the movie which is played out in a way much more familiar to Hong Kong audiences with a goofy love triangle.
我咁大個仔啊，未使去氹過女仔㗎，今次第一次嘅啫。
喂，小心啲啊，好黐身㗎。
係啊，好黐身㗎，膏藥咁喎。所以我實有機會幫你報仇㗎。
打咗咗班土匪之後，唔好啩？
You know what I'm saying?
你會唔會留低啊？
唔會㗎。
Wherever they go,
我最中意浪跡
Chris
天涯㗎嘛。
with the others.
男兒志在四方。
I go with them.
我都係啊。
Plus, we see a few other key plot moments, like the betrayal of the farmers to the raiders. The characters are well pronounced, the action's tight. Because of the guns, it's not strictly a period classic kung fu movie, but as a Seven Samurai disciple, I think it's a win. Seven Swords, 2005. Choi Hark directed a pretty cool tribute to Seven Samurai with his Seven Swords movie in 2005, but there's a bunch of grandiosity and posturing in the production of the movie that kind of deflates the final product, in my opinion. This is sometimes a hallmark of Hark's filmmaking. Then there's the added twist that it's not really supposed to be a remake of Seven Samurai, even though it says so on Wikipedia and other places, as well as on the commentary for the DVD, where Hark is directly asked if it was an intentional homage, and he kind of ducks the question.
Now, several reviewers had mentioned that there seemed to be a couple of intentional touchstones of Kurosawa. Obviously, if you do a film about seven guys with swords, there's at least one famous antecedent. And I felt this scene with the bandits looking down on the village with the banners was kind of a nod to Seven Samurai. Was that accidental or an homage? If I can use that horrible word.
You see, the thing is, it's not very smart to imitate or follow something a master have done.
Yeah.
And Kurosawa is a master.
Yes.
And Seven Samurai is
a masterpiece. His masterpiece.
Like no one can top that kind of production and directing and everything. But you can avoid creating something have the certain kind of degree of similarity to the movie, because actually the story have very close setting.
I wondered if you were saying to the audience, like, I know I'm doing Seven Swordsmen, this is different, but here's a little nod to Kurosawa, but maybe reading too much into it.
So it seems very much implied to everybody that the intended homage is obvious, despite what Hark says or doesn't say. It's fine to make another Seven Samurai homage. Everybody's doing it. But what makes it weird is if you were supposed to be adapting a totally different story. So yeah, this is based on a book from the 50s, part of a trilogy, and not the first part. The English title is Seven Swordsmen from Mount Tian, but I can't pronounce any of the Chinese titles. But that isn't important, because when we check Wikipedia, we get this quote: "Except for some characters' names, the story and the Seven Swords are not related to the novel."
I mean, how closely does this follow the book, in terms of the structure?
You see, the book start out with the death of one of the sword.
Oh, really? Which one?
The Leon Lai.
Oh, okay.
If you want to follow the novel, actually, when the novel was published, the reader wrote letter to the writer and said, what happened to the first part of the story? Mm-hmm. What happened to them? And so the writer, wrote another book to explain the story of why.
The first book?
The first book.
Oh.
So when I read the book and said, it's interesting, but I think, there's so much room there that we can create. So almost like I extend the first chapter into a movie.
The movie itself is indeed about seven master swordsmen who band together to prevent the slaughter of innocent villagers by an evil warlord. And that's a direct quote from the back of the box. So in his movie, there's a warlord raiding a local village. There are seven warriors who will defend the village. There's even a romance with the young village girl, but beyond those similarities, there's little more to look at in comparison. The movie takes place during the wuxia era, like you would see in Crouching Tiger or Hero. It's the literary genre of kung fu that incorporates supernatural powers like tiptoeing over treetops and magic swords. As our seven heroes climb Mount Heaven, they are each given a distinct blade by a master sword forger guy, and there are some pretty sweet designs. Donnie Yen has a ringing or singing blade called the Dragon. There's the Deity, which I think has some healing properties. Heaven's Fall with the sliding blade, which has holes like a flute, and if you plug them, the sword will gain the balance needed for fighting. This is actually the most interesting of all the swords, in my opinion.
This sword is called Heaven Fall.
For a movie called Seven Swords, I had hoped for more about the blades themselves, but for the most part, they're just there, and we're left to wonder about them, and that's kind of frustrating. The choreography's good, the costumes are wonderful, and the cast features Master Lau Kar-leung and Donnie Yen in key roles, though the dubbing is pretty ridiculous, not just for the voice they gave Donnie Yen.
Firewind captured you. Tell me honestly, do you like being a slave? Huh?
Tell me who you are.
Maybe later.
Where are you taking me?
I'll take care of you. You'll go where I go.
But also for the translation choices.
How many of them were there?
Someone is checking.
Check your mother. Get the horses.
When we go and collect our bounty, we should know how much to ask for.
Ask your mother.
Now, this was intended as a trilogy of films, but stalled after the release of the first one. There's a TV series that has been produced since, and that was also intended to be a larger epic than the 34 episodes that were produced, but that was never fully realized either. And even that is said to be closer to the first novel of the trilogy, despite using the title of the second novel. It just seems like a real mess. So this is more of a question as to whether it actually is an intentional homage to Kurosawa. There just isn't that much to stick to it. The number 7 pops up in movie titles all the time. Blake 7 isn't about Magnificent 7 at all. 7 Psychopaths is 7 because it sounds good. The lucky number Slevin. Slevin's not even a number. There are 7 dwarves. There's a 7 years war. There are 6 days but 7 nights. What were we talking about again? Can we just do a bonus movie? Let's do a bonus movie. The Magnificent 11 in 2013. Think of it like Bend It Like Beckham meets The Magnificent 7, relocating the entire drama onto the soccer pitch. This is a comedy with a smidge of drama and romance, and in concept is slightly more clever than the execution. It's about a failing soccer club of local losers who try and secure a sponsorship from a nearby Indian restaurant, who agrees in exchange for the lads working there part-time. The restaurant hopes that having soccer hooligans around will dissuade local gangster American Bob from extorting them for protection money. The soccer team is called the Cowboys. The restaurant are literally the Indians who need protecting from these bandits. It's a very cute transposing of the plot in a unique way. One of the younger guys has a romance with the daughter of one of the players, all while tackling all the expectations one might have for a Magnificent 7 homage. This movie also has some social commentary of its own, packs a few laughs, and some genuine emotional moments. It's pretty well done. And it is the 4th appearance of Robert Vaughn on our list.
Does that mean you're gonna have me?
Does Dolly Parton sleep on her back? Yeah. We're gonna show you what nasty banditos do to cowboys.
Vaughn's pretty old now in 2013, but I would imagine his cameo was something of a triumph for the filmmakers, or a cherry on top of their cake having one of the original 7 in the movie. The last of the original 7 that was alive. Okay, there's one more chapter in the series. The next, final, and last chapter will cover all of the science fiction versions of the 7 Samurai plot. So please come back and watch that video when it drops. Thank you again for watching. It's very much appreciated.